Really quick, before we get into today's video, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Train of Thought. They're an amazing YouTube channel that recently has kept me pretty occupied, and it was his video titled The Little Railway That Could that actually inspired me to make this video. I highly recommend you guys not only watch his video as well, but also consider giving him a subscribe, as all of his content is so informative as well as very capturing, and I really think you guys would enjoy it. And again, huge thank you to him for giving me the inspiration for today's video. As everyone who's been watching my videos recently knows, I've been obsessed with narrow gauge. Personally, I just find something so fascinating about smaller locomotives and how they work, and whenever I research them, I always want to know more. If you've hung around for a bit longer though, you may know that I also have a thing for armored trains and wartime locomotives. So today we'll be taking a look at something that captures both, though I have stretched the truth a little bit. The railway and locomotive in question today isn't necessarily narrow gauge, but miniature. That's right, our Arlesdale friends get some spotlight this episode, though not necessarily them specifically. The Arlesdale engines and railway are based on the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway, while today we'll be taking a look at the Romney, Hythe, and Dymchurch Railway, or RH&DR as I'll be calling it to avoid saying all of that and butchering it. I also want to give a huge shout out to Frankie Boy TV and Busted Side Rods for not only helping me find the information I needed to make this, but for also basically saving this video. I had run into a bit of a wall with my research, and they cleared it up really quick, so infinite thanks to the homies. Alright, now that we've said all of that, let's meet Hercules. Though once the War Department took her in, Ares may have worked just as well. Hercules is a freelance outline 2-cylinder 482 mountain class locomotive. She was designed by Paxman & Co. in 1927, and in working order weighs about 8 tons. To the RH&DR, Hercules is an important engine. She hauled the inaugural train on the opening day of the line on July 16th in 1927. At this time, unfortunately her condition wasn't the best, but in 1936, renewed ballast traffic saw to it that Hercules was rebuilt for use on this service. However, not all would be cheery for Hercules, or the railway that she was on. Around this time, the locomotive fleet was extended to 9 mainline engines, with a fleet of luxurious coaches being built as well. These were the war years though, and soon they would take their toll, with the line itself being requisitioned by the War Department. It would be the War Department that created the only miniature armored engine in the world. The locomotive itself was Hercules, who was fit to find fame as the mini-engine used for the armored train during World War II. Hercules would be rebuilt to feature armor and a consist consisting of 2 armored and turreted wagons, these on her front and back sides. Due to the small size of the locomotive and the wagons themselves, Hotchkiss guns were basically unusable. They were too large. Instead, the convoy would employ 2 Boys anti-tank rifles, as well as 4 Lewis machine guns. The convoy itself being manned by the 6th Battalion and Somerset Light Infantry. Believe it or not, they're actually credited with shooting down 3 German aircraft that I refuse to try to pronounce. They're on screen now and in the description in the sources if you would want to check them out yourself. She was used extensively during the building of Pluto, which basically would fuel the Allied invasion force. Pluto meaning pipeline under the ocean, so hopefully that sets in a bit more severity. And seeing as the battalion manning the locomotive was credited with taking down 3 German aircrafts, I think it's safe to say that Hercules saw combat, though I'm unfortunately not able to find many specifics of such. Darknut96 was actually kind enough to comment a little bit of knowledge that he had on such, but unfortunately neither of us can truly confirm, so take this information with a grain of salt, and if anybody can't confirm, be sure to let us know down in the comments. He stated that apparently a German fighter pilot mistook the locomotive for a full-sized one, proceeding of course to shoot at it. However, the pilot would make a mistake in doing such and end up crashing into the ground. While unfortunately neither of us can confirm if this is true or not, man, I really hope it is. I find the use of this locomotive in wartime so fascinating. And like I said, unfortunately I found it hard to come around many specifics, so if anybody can confirm that or if anybody has any extra knowledge, I would love to know. As peacetime would return, the RH&DR were keen to reopen, which they soon did, but the cost of the hostilities were obvious. A large portion of their track was now single line only, as the raw materials to rebuild were scarce and the cost very high. That being said though, the post-war years were good, and the publicity gained from being a frontline railway definitely paid some dividends. The 50s and early 60s saw a boom in tourism, and the Kent Coast and RH&DR benefited greatly. But the arrival of cheap package holidays to sunnier climes soon saw the passenger numbers fall. The owner of the railway was also aging, and investment in the railway was not all it could have been. As new owners would take the railway on, the extent of this lack of investment became much more apparent. Bridges were in poor condition, rolling stock was aging and uncomfortable, and locomotives were becoming very very costly to maintain. However, times wouldn't always be so hard for the railway itself, and Hercules wouldn't stay an armored beast. After the war, she was rebuilt into her former glory, though I'm not sure of exactly when, and is still around to this day. The RH&DR is still very much open, and their locomotives still steaming up the rails, and personally, I'm very happy to hear that. Wartime is never good for any company 9 times out of 10, especially being on the front line. It's amazing to hear that not only the locomotive, but the line itself runs in very good shape to this day, and truly, I hope it remains that way. There was once a replica of the armored Hercules that I believe was made out of wood, but apparently recently it has been scrapped, leaving the original as all we have left, which in my opinion is plenty. Hopefully you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more on the RH&DR, but also the locomotive who helped give it the glory it has now. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe for even more train content, and as always, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.